What appears to be a luxurious cruise of uber-rich and famous people becomes a tragedy where neither their money nor their stature can help them survive. A host interviews male models waiting for their turn in an audition. He asks about what it means to be a model, and one answers that it's about good looks and the walk. The host soon interviews Carl and asks whether this casting is for a grumpy or smiley brand. Since Carl can't understand his question, the host explains that smiley brands are cheap ones and a grumpy look is for an expensive brand where they look down on their consumers. While clutching his portfolio, Carl proudly responds that it's for a grumpy brand. That's when the host urges him to show his grumpy look to the camera. With the host directing them, the other models join Carl in alternating between smiley and glum expressions, not minding how the host is puppeteering them. Finally, it's Carl's turn to audition. After the panel examines his portfolio, they ask him to perform a catwalk. Unsatisfied with his performance, one of the judges teaches him to think of a tune he likes and walk in rhythm. The judge also notes to relax his triangle of sadness, which is the area between the eyebrows. After that, Carl leaves the audition room, unsure how his audition went. In a fashion show, the organizers keep shuffling the guests. Carl, who's initially sitting in the front seat, is left standing until he is eventually moved to the back. As the event starts, the backdrop screen flashes "Everyone's Equal," while Carl's gorgeous friend, Yaya, a model/influencer, is nailing her catwalk on stage, enjoying the spotlight and applause. One night, the couple goes on a fancy dinner date. Yaya does her makeup when the waiter sets down their bill. Afterward, she then checks her phone, leaving Carl to touch the bill to make her notice. Instead, Yaya thanks him, expecting him to take care of it. Flashing that sweet smile, Yaya is visibly enjoying the night, but her date isn't. Carl complains that she's giving him no choice but to pay when she's immediately thanking him for it. Dumbfounded by his reaction, Yaya sarcastically suggests splitting the bill and asks Carl how much food and drinks he had to even it out. Carl clarifies he doesn't mean it that way, but reminds her that she promised last night to pay for the food today. In her defense, Yaya assumed Carl would pay because he picked the bill up. Obviously, her boyfriend did it because the bill had been sitting on the table for quite some time, but she ignored it. Yaya explains she didn't see the tab, but Carl believes it's just an excuse. Offended, Yaya tries to walk out, but Carl stops her. This attracts the other customers' attention. Yaya then begrudgingly insists on using her card, which makes her boyfriend feel bad. Carl tries to stop her, but his upset girlfriend is determined. However, embarrassingly, Yaya's card doesn't work, so Carl still pays the bill in the end. On their way home, the boy speaks up against the sensitivity of discussing money in a relationship, asking his girlfriend if it's because of the gender roles tied to it. Tired, Yaya admits she finds it unsexy to talk about money, much to Carl's disappointment. He argues that he wants them to be like best friends, where they can be considerate and generous to each other. He wants them to be equal, but his girlfriend dislikes the thought of sleeping with her best friend. After she exits, Carl is left speechless, so the driver encourages him to fight for her if he loves her. Otherwise, he'll be her slave. Taking his advice, Carl joins Yaya in the elevator and refuses to exit until they resolve their issue. He tries hard to let Yaya understand that while he enjoys paying for their dates, he sometimes feels used. Still, Yaya takes it badly and counts the things she did for him, including inviting him for dinner and letting him stay in her hotel. Carl points out that he was the one who paid for their dinner, so Yaya insists on returning every cent to him as she's always intended. Carl doesn't believe her because Yaya took the 50 euro change instead of giving it to him. To retaliate, Yaya shoves the 50 euros down his chest. Her action insults him, and he starts shouting at her. The couple decides to spend time apart. Later that night, Yaya comes around and confesses to Carl she's very manipulative, and most of the time, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. Although Yaya makes more money, she admits to intentionally ignoring the bill in the restaurant because she needs to know whether the man she's with can take care of her. She won't be able to work if she gets pregnant, and her only way out is to be someone's trophy wife. Carl realizes that for Yaya, their relationship is nothing but a business of increasing their followers on social media. As an influencer, their public relationship generates income for Yaya. Somehow, they both settle for this setup for now. They like each other anyway, and it's good for the business. Still, Carl claims he can make Yaya really fall in love with him, and she smiles at this. One day, the couple is invited to a luxury cruise to promote it on social media. The head of staff, Paula, demands her team to comply with all the guests' requests no matter how absurd they are so they can receive a generous tip. At the rear deck, Carl is helping Yaya take pictures when a male crew member suddenly removes his uniform in front of them. Carl gets jealous when he sees Yaya smiling at the muscled guy. She thinks there's nothing wrong about it, but Carl gets defensive, though he denies feeling jealous. He later approaches Paula to complain about the bare-chested crew member. Carl then asks to check out their engagement rings, so Paula shows him a 24-karat gold ring. However, upon learning that it costs 28,000 euros, Carl quiets down. Afterward, Paula calls the captain for the safety drill, but he refuses to come out of his room, saying he's sick. In the dining area, a Russian oligarch, Dmitry, his wife Vera, and his girlfriend Ludmila sit at the table with Yaya and Carl. Dmitry notices Yaya pushing her pasta aside after taking photos, so her boyfriend explains it's just for content since she's an influencer. The Russian businessman becomes interested when Carl shares that by being an influencer, they earn money or free stuff, including the tickets for the cruise. Dmitry then shares that he sells agriculture fertilizer for his business, saying he was the only CEO of an agriculture conglomerate at the beginning of the 80s in East Europe. He rambles on about his business, forcing Yaya and Carl to listen to him. On the other table, an elderly couple, Clementine and Winston, sit next to Therese, a disabled woman. The couple keeps repeating their introduction, but Therese won't respond until her husband explains that his wife had a stroke, causing her speech disability. Later, Carl is surprised to see the crew member from the deck leaving. He feels guilty as he realizes that the man might have gotten fired because of his complaint. That night, Dmitry notices an unaccompanied man, Yarmo, eyeing each passing lady's staff. He tells Carl that he thinks this man is hunting for women. They're making fun of him until Yarmo approaches their girlfriends. Carl loses his smile when Yaya agrees to take a photo of the stranger. Ludmila suddenly invites Yarmo to take a photo with them, and the woman's gesture moves the lonely man, so he offers to buy them Rolex watches, confessing that he's wealthy. Meanwhile, Paula checks on their captain to schedule the captain's dinner. He refuses to discuss it, but she insists they must schedule it. She says that any night is fine except Thursday since there's a storm. He mishears this and agrees to hold the captain's dinner on Thursday despite Paula's protest. Soon, Dmitry gets tired of watching his girlfriend flirt with someone else, so he takes Ludmila away. Alone at the bar, Yaya invites the stranger to dance, but he refuses. Carl tries to ignore this, so he heads to bed, leaving his girlfriend behind. The following day, some guests are enjoying the fresh air on the deck. Vera is in the pool, sharing with a lady staff named Alicia that most people regret throwing away their lives on stupid and pointless jobs. Vera adds that being born rich makes her question the unfairness of life, saying everyone is equal. She then insists Alicia on switching with her so the staff can enjoy the pool instead. Alicia tries to refuse since they have a lot to do, but ends up complying with the woman's demands. Suddenly, Vera orders the entire staff to go for a swim. Paula gets all worked up by this because they're busy preparing for the captain's dinner. She asks the vice captain to dissuade Vera, who even wants to use the water slide, which will take forever to install. However, the vice captain refuses because it's the crazy rich Russians they're talking about. Paula asks the captain about this, but he's not responding from his room again. In the end, Paula allows the busy crew to enjoy the ocean, so they all line up to slide into the water. In the evening, the captain, Thomas, who has just sobered up, tries to keep a straight face as the guests arrive for the lavish captain's dinner. Carl and Yaya are seated with Clementine and Winston, who reveal that they manufacture hand grenades. The dinner isn't going well as they get caught in a severe storm. Several guests start feeling seasick because of the ship's heavy rocking, while others stumble over as they try to leave the dining hall. While everyone else retires to their respective rooms, Thomas and Dmitry enjoy another drink and argue about socialism and capitalism. The boat struggles in the storm, and several guests suffer injuries, yet they continue their debate over the intercom for everyone to hear. Others wear life vests to secure themselves while the cleaning crew is still cleaning the mess in the dining hall. Thomas comments over the intercom that Dmitry's greedy behavior is the result of his financial hierarchy. He's swimming in abundance while the rest of the world drowns in misery, which Thomas thinks is unfair. Still, he believes the Russian has a good heart somewhere. Finally, his vice captain demands him to stop saying such things for their guests to hear. Despite this, Thomas continues that people justify what they do, so the rich become philanthropists to cure their conscience of not paying their taxes and contributing to society. To make him stop, Paula tries to disconnect the intercom, but ends up shorting the circuits. Thus, the ship loses power. Thankfully, the water clears the following day. However, pirates attack the ship and throw a hand grenade that Clementine and Winston pick up. When the ship blows up, the couple is the first to die by their own product. With that, the pirates invade the luxury cruise ship. Hours later, Carl, Yaya, Dmitry, Paula, and Yarmo manage to escape and are now stranded on an island. An engine crew member, Nelson, soon pushes a rubber boat with Therese on board to the shore. However, Dmitry is suspicious of Nelson as he's never seen him on the cruise before. Nelson explains he was always in the engine room and was asleep by the time of the explosion. The first night on the island is a horror. They hear howling, but it's too dark to see where it's coming from. Afraid, they run back to the shore to spend the night there, but forget about the immobile Therese. The next morning, everyone is thrilled when they spot a lifeboat. Abigail, a crew member, is the sole survivor inside, and Paula immediately commands her to bring out the drinks and food for the guest. They don't even bother to check on her or share the food food with her. While the others rest, Abigail works hard to catch fish for dinner. She captures an octopus, but no one knows how to clean it or make a fire, leaving the cleaning lady to do everything by herself again. Everyone finally gets a decent dinner that night, thanks to her. But Paula objects when she decides to have half the food she cooked. Paula reminds her that she's just a toilet manager, and as an employee, they must still serve the guests. However, Abigail insists on taking command. She may be a cleaning lady, but on the island, she is the captain since she's the only one with the survival skills to keep them alive. For her first command, Abigail urges the men to sleep outside to keep an eye on the fire and Therese while the girls sleep in the lifeboat. Still, Dimitri and Yarmo save themselves by bartering their expensive watches for a spot in the boat. Meanwhile, Nelson and Carl find a pack of pretzel sticks inside the bag Abigail left. They intend to take one stick each, but because they aren't content with their dinner, they end up consuming the whole pack. Dimitri wakes up the next morning to find his wife's body washed up on the beach. Even though he's mourning, he still makes sure to keep the jewelry she's wearing. Meanwhile, Abigail confronts Nelson and Carl about the missing pack of pretzels. The boys immediately deny they took it, but she sees through their lie as she spots the empty pack on the ground. As a punishment, the self-proclaimed captain orders the boys not to have a share of food. The roles have reversed on the island, with Abigail taking the lead. That night, everyone fills themselves up with the fish Abigail caught, except for Nelson and Carl. While silently eating, Yaya notices Carl and Abigail staring at each other. Feeling jealous, she walks out. After Yaya leaves, Abigail asks Paula to watch the fire for tonight. She then invites Carl to sleep with her in the lifeboat, shocking everyone. They know what Abigail is up to, yet no one dares to say a word. Before getting inside, Carl bribes Yaya with a pack of pretzels from Abigail to seek advice on handling the other woman. Yaya cries out of jealousy, but there's nothing much she can do. Since then, Carl has slept with Abigail inside the lifeboat every night. The boy comes running whenever she blows the whistle to summon him while also getting more food which he shares with his girlfriend. Although they don't admit or discuss their intimacy in the open, everyone else is aware of what's happening. Even whistleblowing becomes the subject of jokes for the men. Days pass, and the men are learning to hunt. They manage to catch a donkey but fail to kill it in one try. Desperate, they hit the poor animal repeatedly while listening to its high-pitched wail before they finally butcher it. Carl and Abigail spend another night together. However, the young man worries that everyone isn't happy with what they're doing. Carl admits that the situation is becoming unbearable for him, so Abigail suggests they should tell them the truth. The young man says that just because she's willing to be open that she's a flesh peddler, it doesn't mean everyone will accept it. Abigail is offended by his words, saying that given the work she put in for them to survive, she deserves to have some privileges. To rectify their situation, Carl suggests acting like a real couple in front of everybody. He's even willing to talk it out with Yaya or break up with her if Abigail says so. Abigail refuses to come between the young couple, saying it should be Carl's decision. The following morning, Yaya wakes them up to borrow Abigail's backpack. She wants to hike on the mountain to see if she can find something. Abigail volunteers to accompany her as it'll be dangerous for her to go alone. While hiking, Yaya acknowledges everything Abigail's doing on the island, including domesticating the old alpha males. They both laugh at the mention of these men. In the camp, Therese is surprised to encounter a local beach vendor. Unfortunately, no one else is with her, so she fails to communicate with him because of her disability. The vendor is weirded out and leaves, so she tries to scream in desperation. Meanwhile, Abigail and Yaya have reached the other side of the island. Yaya is ecstatic when she discovers an elevator and realizes they've been stranded near a luxury resort. While Yaya is excited to go inside, Abigail hesitates to enter. She asks Yaya to wait for her while she relieves herself. However, she only pretends to do so as her deadly stare lingers on Yaya, who has no idea of the danger lurking behind her. While Yaya is facing away, Abigail picks up a large rock and slowly walks toward her. She is determined to kill Yaya so no one would know about the elevator. Just as she's about to hit Yaya on the head, the oblivious girl suddenly offers her a job as her assistant to thank her for her efforts. This makes Abigail hesitate. Elsewhere, Carl runs frantically to the woods, ignoring the cuts from the thorny branches as he desperately searches for the two women. The tragedy turns their lives upside down, but for someone like Abigail, who has always been on the downside of life, it was her opportunity to hold power. No one can blame her if she wants to grip it tighter.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.